Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Good crack of noon to our friends on the East Coast. I am Todd Obert, President and CEO of Productive. I am joined here with Ranjan Barrera, Product Management Director for EntrustDatacard. And we are going to be talking about passwordless security. Very cool stuff, real game changer when it comes to security for your company, for access and access management. If you have been with us before, you know how we do it. We meet Productive in 1 minute, and then we get to the content. We're going to talk about how passwordless security works, how it can alleviate headaches that you used to have, like having to have an IT help desk deal with password reset. Ranjan's going to show you reporting and kind of the cool functionality that this solution has. So if you do have questions throughout the presentation, please utilize the chat feature and we will get all of your questions answered. But for now, buckle up and here we go. Let's meet Productive in 1 minute. So who is Productive Corporation? Well, I'm so glad you asked, even though you're muted. Productive Corporation provides security solutions for mid-sized companies. We have specialized expertise to help with licensing, technical questions, to scope services, etc. We also implement, test, and optimize the products that we sell. Whether that's an overall security posture, we can look at Active Directory security, we can help with configuration of endpoint, multi-factor, or gateway and UTMs. We also produce a lot of third-party content like this webinar to educate the folks we work with in the mid-market so that they can be better informed. All of this is at productivecorp.com/solving security. Bottom line is we have resources to help you, whether it's implementation, assessment, licensing, or optimization services. Help at productivecorp.com. Or if you still have a corded phone on the wall, call us 612-375-0204. We would love to chat. And so speaking of loving to chat, we are talking about Passwordless Security Day. Ranjan Barrera from EntrustDatacard is going to talk to us about that today. And I'm super excited about what he has to say because EntrustDatacard has a solution, right? We've done 2FA, MFA for quite a long time, but we think this is really a game changer in authentication. And it works. I think it's technology that has a high value because it doesn't take a lot of user behavior change and it delivers a ton of value. So those are kind of knockout products when we look at it. So sit back, relax, and let's enjoy what Ranjan has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, Ranjan Barrera. Ranjan?
Hey, Todd, the other one, if you can make me the presenter.
The other one. All right. How about that?
Yeah, the two of us.
Yeah. Yep. That should be better.
Excellent. All right. So, folks, welcome to the webinar. And thanks, Todd, for inviting us to hold this webinar. The problem with passwords have been always insecure. Like, whether it was before the COVID situation, passwords getting hacked. And if somebody is actually bent upon taking my password, taking my identity, if my logins are just protected by passwords, we can always steal those identities and steal the password. That's the largest kind of widespread credential stealing happening today. In COVID also, when Zoom opened up, there were like 500,000 Zoom credentials available on dark internet, and some were for free, some were paid. And then we've been doing things like, change every 90 days, every so often, the combination of characters and all that stuff. And you can even get it around that. But as remote workforce start coming into play, and there are different risks now, your home and internet security, etc., and firewalls may not be as good as your corporate ones are. people are distracted, like, they have kids home, their work is going on around them, and scammers do take advantage of this kind of distraction, this kind of anxiety, nervousness, and risks increase. So cyber criminals are ramping up their phishing attacks, and they know that you're connecting to company servers. They know everybody's working from home. You may be using their own devices. How do I take advantage of this new situation where there are multiple new loopholes which have just opened up? Passwords are definitely more painful than ever. People share their passwords, people reuse their passwords again and again, and 62% rely solely on username and password. This is just some data, but the information, what it is telling us is that passwords are not the right way to go. When we started thinking about passwordless, like we said, what actually means giving a good passwordless experience? We thought about, how about you don't have to touch anything at all on your computer when you're trying to log in? You just, if you're a healthcare worker, if you're a government service worker, if you're just working on your own as a knowledge worker, it doesn't matter. Passwords are just not hygienic. So we have a very large healthcare provider in Europe. They have about 1 million users, and they were setting up a COVID Florence Nightingale kind of hospital. They said, you know what? We're going to use physical smart cards to get into these healthcare computers. But now the challenge is my hands are covered with my gloves. My face is covered with my masks and everything. And I have overalls. So there's no way I'm going to reach out to my pocket with my hand, which has bodily fluids on, and pull out my physical smart card, insert it into the computer, type in a PIN, and then log in, and then keep typing PIN every time an application prompts me to do that. They came to us and said, do you have a solution? I said, yes, of course we do have a solution. What's your solution? Solution is keep your iPhone or Android device in your pocket, walk up to the phone, it'll get connected over a secure Bluetooth connection, completely hands-free, doesn't have to ask you for your facial recognition or fingerprint, although you can do that, but in this case, it was not advisable. So they said, what do we do? They said, you walk up to the computer, it automatically gets connected over a secure encrypted Bluetooth connection. There is a PKI-based smart credential inside, which has private public keys in there, in the secure enclave or secure element. And at that point in time, you connect with a computer, and the computer says, can you please type in a PIN once? That's it. So you type in a PIN once, you get in, you can keep working. And once you walk away from the computer, the Bluetooth connection breaks, the proximity breaks, and the user gets logged out or the screen gets locked. The beauty is no contamination from surface perspective, because it's much more difficult to, once the fluids have gotten onto the smart card and it has been inserted into the computer and things are all over the place, versus just cleaning the keyboard. When you walk up, they spray the keyboard, or they just disinfect the keyboard and everything is good. So this is going touchless without having a physical smart card security. Not only did they do this thing to sign in, they also are using the same or similar kind of certificates which are on the device to sign the prescriptions, to access health records. So this is much more than just being able to say, passwordless login. You are actually getting into high assurance credential-based authentication without having to pick up a physical smart card, for say. Another one, returning to work. How do you do? Like, do you have to, when you get back into work after COVID, do you want to go to a shared computer scenario, hot desking scenario? How would you address those kind of situations? So you walk up to the computer, instead of putting in physical authenticator, etc., you do the same thing. You reach up to the computer, you take a look at your mobile device with facial recognition or touch ID, it logs you in and you continue working. So this is another aspect of it. So it's combining.
So Rajan, once you are unlocking your phone, right, I got my iPhone, it's facial recognition, I hold it up, it unlocks it, then it gives me access to that device that I'm authorized to use already.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. And it actually, you receive a notification saying, hey, Todd, do you want to log into this computer?
Okay.
And you tap on that notification. It'll say unlock the computer, unlock the credentials, and it says show me your face. Yep, and you're in.
Similar to how like an authenticator would work, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is much more secure, very non-repudiable solution because now you're unlocking your credentials with your facial biometrics or Touch ID.
Yeah.
Now, if you didn't want to use the device native ones, our application does provide one which is a soft facial recognition also.
Okay, nice.
So the same thing, like, not only you're reducing the risk of transmission, etc., you're logging in like that, but also anything that you want to do, like email encryption, single sign-on to any application. So as long as you are standing next to your computer or sitting next to your computer and your device is connected over Bluetooth to your computer, you're logged in, you want to get Office 365, email, Salesforce, SharePoint. As long as you have granted access, you're granted access to those applications, you will be able to log in without ever having to re-authenticate again. Unless the risk changed. And at that point in time, we will prompt you again for a facial recognition. But if the risk scenario did not change, you will continue working seamlessly, never having to worry about changing your password. Getting emails saying, every 90 days you have to change the password, then you have to remember that password, then you have to remember the combination. And then you get into techniques of writing small things on the paper. Then sometimes some things fall through the cracks from IT admin perspective. So all those things completely disappear. And you get a more comprehensive security because your email is getting encrypted, your email is getting signed. If you wanted digital document signing, you can do it. If you wanted to log into your VPN, you can do that from home if you were working from home. If you were logging into an SSH server, you can use the same thing. If you were remote desktoping, you can do the same thing. So it is one solution which says, once you're logged in, as long as you're carrying your device with you, you're good. And as you walk away from the device, everything gets locked or logged out based on the policy that the administrator set up. So we've already, another thing which is important to remember is there's no hardware or software upgrade required, right? There are other solutions, for example, Windows Hello for Business, where you would say, that's a nice solution. It has infrared camera, and as I walk up to the computer, I show myself and I'm good. Yes, on surface it looks good, but when you dig a little bit deeper, you scratch a little bit and you say, oh yes, but that means that I have to register with that computer. And any other computer that I want to walk up to, I need to register. And there's a limited number of registration that each computer allows. It could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 5. And what ends up happening is if the 6th person comes in and wants to log into that computer, the first one gets kicked out. So when the first one comes back later and says, I want to access the computer says, I'm sorry, you're not registered, register again. And that ties you back into logging in with a password and a second factor, and you continue the cycle. So the vicious cycle is that password never disappears. And then you need to upgrade to Windows 10, Hello for Business. You need to have possibly a infrared camera in case you want facial recognition or a Touch ID enabled computer. So all those things mean that you have to do hardware software upgrades, and it doesn't work on Macs. And then your single sign-on is based on other technologies. What we have done is we have come up with a solution by which you don't have to upgrade your hardware. If you have Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Mac, no problem, keep it there. You don't have a camera, no problem, no Touch ID, no problem. As long as you have a smartphone device or a FIDO key, you're good to go. So you log in and it seamlessly takes you through that experience. The aim is, whether it's Face ID or Touch ID, and in case of the healthcare provider where everybody was covered in gloves, etc., it could be a PIN also. But it is absolutely important to understand that this is based on high assurance credentials. PKI technology has been there for many, many years. We have deployed the solution in the likes of NASA, JPL, federal government, very large NATO-like organizations who are very security conscious. So it doesn't mean that it is heavy. It just means that it is secure. So if it is good for NASA JPL, good for NATO, good for D&D kind of situations, it is very, very secure for any enterprise. And the reason why those people, sorry, go on.
Oh, go ahead. When you finish your thought, and I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, I think it's a secure technology which has now become accessible to anybody, and it's very easy to deploy also.
Yeah. Hey, so I have a question here. How does an admin use this? How do they provision? How does it tie into AD, or do we have any screenshots, or can we show that?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. So
Perfect.
Here.
Okay.
So I'll show you how the user experience is. So it's basically, so that's how the user experience is. User walks up to the computer on a secure Bluetooth connection, they get the identity. Now, before this thing happens, IntelliTrust, which is our product, IntelliTrust actually is tied into an AD. Okay, so what it does is it synchronizes the user with the AD. Okay, so all the user synchronization happens here. It could be AD or it could be Azure AD also. Okay, it doesn't matter to us what the database is, AD, Azure AD, ADLDS, it doesn't matter. Once the users are synchronized here, we are also tied into a PKI solution, whether it is your own customer PKI, Microsoft CA, Azure Microsoft CA, or EntrustDatacard PKI, whether it's MSO or MSO PKI as a service, you can configure easily right here. It's a single screen to configure it. It automatically synchronizes here. It automatically issues certificates. So first time the user comes and says, I want to get a key for myself to log in, a passwordless key, they basically log into IntelliTrust, or they receive an email from their administrator. An administrator can say, these are the people who are passwordless experienced people, send them an email. It sends an email, they receive an email, there's a link there, they click on it, they authenticate themselves, and they're in. So all the certificates, etc. Sorry, go on.
So if you don't have Active Directory or PKI, would that need to be a baseline, or so you need some sort of directory structure and something for security to run Entrust?
Correct. So either you have this Azure AD or AD. Alternatively, we also have our own directory structure here. So if you don't have that, that's fine. But normally what we have seen is you will have either an on-prem AD, ADFS, Azure AD, especially if you're getting some cloud applications or you're getting some kind of remote desktop connections or VPNs, etc. But if you don't have, don't worry, we have the directory structure right here.
Okay.
And then PKI is important from perspective of, so there are two options, right? You can go FIDO way, or you can go, but then FIDO is a physical key and you have to insert it into the computer and all that stuff. So you can go FIDO way, or alternatively, you can go with the PKI way, which gives you one level of higher assurance. Because what FIDO cannot do is FIDO cannot prove that it is your identity. It cannot encrypt. It cannot sign an email on your behalf. It can just authenticate you as the key owner, which is not bad. But if you want to up a security assurance level 1 up, then you must have a PKI. Now, what we also have is, if you don't have a PKI, you don't want to manage a PKI, right? In October timeframe, there will be a PKI already embedded in the solution, so you don't even have to worry about that.
Oh, nice.
So if you don't have Azure AD, don't have PKI, in October timeframe, you will have a PKI embedded in the solution itself, so that you just go and say, I want passwordless experience in IntelliTrust, give it to me.
Yep. Awesome. That's super good to hear, because that would be, for some environments, if they don't utilize it now, it's all built into the solution. What about users that, and I don't even know if this exists, but that don't have smartphones?
Right. So if they don't have smartphones, the other alternative is to have a physical USB key, right? And that could work in a very similar fashion.
Okay.
So the good thing with with a smartphone is that it basically recognizes you with facial recognition and things like that. When it comes to a USB key, which is again secure and it has the same certificates and credentials, etc., you will have to end up putting PIN here. That's the only
Totally.
difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I get it. There's really no way around it if you don't have a smart device. So it wouldn't be the majority, but there's a handful of people out there, and
100%.
that don't have smartphones. So, but very small.
Yeah.
But just I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah. No. 100%. That's a very valid question. And also, if you didn't have that PKI based key, you can always have your FIDO key.
Okay.
So that also works. It's just that if you want to up the security one level, because with FIDO key, what ends up happening is, if Todd has a FIDO key which works for passwordless experience, if I stole Todd's key, then I become Todd. Unless I bought something which had a fingerprint, and then the management of that and all that stuff becomes a little bit more involved.
Yep.
Yeah. But if you had a key which could store the certificates, etc., and it's a USB key or a physical card kind of thing, then you put in a PIN and then you are good. And not only you sign into the computer, as I said, you can sign into a remote desktop. You can just seamlessly continue working on any of the SAML OpenID Connect applications. You can sign your emails, you can encrypt your emails, you can do digital document signing. If you wanted to use it for file encryption on your computer, you can do that. It basically becomes a more comprehensive solution, which is taking you way beyond what the solution, just a passwordless solution would do for you. Like you could go for a passwordless store where all the passwords are stored, which again defeats the purpose because you still have to go back and get into the policy management of changing passwords, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas if you go with a passwordless solution that we are providing, not only you are securing your devices, you're alleviating the pain that the administrator face about resetting the password, unlocking the accounts, and all that stuff. So all that pain just disappears from your plate. And from user perspective, the experience is really cool. So let's see the demo quickly. So what's happening is the person came close to the computer and the Bluetooth connectivity happened. It prompts them saying, hey, do you want to log in using these credentials? It says, yep. Then facial recognition, touch ID, whatever the policy has been configured for the user to be, they will do that, and they log into the computer. And you will see that no username, no password. They just had to walk up to the computer and accept that thing on their device. Now, if I want to go to Office 365, and there's a quick link for me, I just go there, and it automatically reaches out and says, I'm validating your identity. Yes, your identity was confirmed. Now you can log into any application. So I didn't have to put username, password, again, the same thing, because all that information was retrieved. Now, as I walk away, the Bluetooth breaks, and it logs me out because that's the policy that my administrator set for me. So this is the experience, folks, you're going to get. Like Todd, this is what we have rolled out as a pilot in EntrustDatacard. We are using it, and it basically makes life much easier. Like any point in time earlier, I was scrambling for saying, hey, hang on a minute, where did my push notification go? Do I have to put in a soft token? Where's my hard token? Where's my key? Now, all I have to do is, I'm sitting next to my computer, my device is there, it just logs me in, and I keep working. So
that's good. Does that give you notification? I mean, right? I'm guessing it ties into your Apple Watch if that, right? Just like Authenticator. So notice, so you don't even have to pull your phone out of your pocket. You can just say, "Yep, confirm," and then you're in.
Well, the first time you have to show you have to take out your phone because
biometrics,
you have to do recognition or touch ID.
Yep. Yep. That is pretty cool, I have to say. I think that is definitely the way the industry is going to go, and you guys are obviously leading in this area. Anything else you want to show us? You got a couple more minutes.
No, this is basically our fundamental principle is, start with establishing the trust, make sure that you have issued secured credentials, focus on mobile, make sure that the trust is maintained through and through, which is this passwordless experience. Once you guys start using it, once you guys start getting a hang of it, saying, what, I didn't log in the whole day, but my computer logged it logged me in again when I walked back in front of the computer, and everything happened just seamlessly.
Yeah. Hey, is this Rajan? Is this priced by site or by user? Correct.
It's per user per month. Yes, it's a subscription model. Yes.
Yep. So we got a question on that. I have it noted. Your question. We'll reach out to you and talk to you about pricing relative to your environment, as I do not have any of that at my fingertips right now. So thanks so much, Rajan. That was fantastic. Really appreciate that. Yeah, and thanks everybody else for attending. We really appreciate you taking the time